Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Intentional Success Podcast. I have a guest here today, Chris Stein, who's the founder of Flex Rental Solutions and a longtime friend and colleague. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
It's good to be seen. You are perpetually busy and always happy about it. What's going on? How are things going? What have you been doing lately?
Company is busy. Biggest milestone we reached, we migrated off of our old product Flex 4 into Flex 5 on the front end completely at the beginning of this year. Hit that goal. That was very exciting. The greatest thing about that transition was how uneventful it was. Mm-hmm. Like we had no paid time off, everyone on call, and it came and went, and it was like, oh, well, I guess we did our job. Work is never done, but like there was no patches, no fireworks or anything like that. It was just, here we go. So our marketing team did a great job, and our transition went really well. So that was a good thing. That was the biggest achievement this year. But yeah, our work is never done. That's the one thing that I don't like about software. Back in the days, loading trucks, you close that last semi and you're like, good job, guys. Let's go get on the plane or let's head home. And you get that sense of, dude, we nailed it.
Yeah, it's hard to find the milestones and moments to celebrate, but a successful launch or de-launch, I think in that case is something to be very, very proud of.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're in a really good position. We've got good problems to solve. We're no longer in what do we have to do? It's what should we do? And those are really interesting business decisions and things like that. I do a lot of customer visits and go out and talk to people and really find out what each individual customer is struggling with and try to, get everyone's temperature. Had a great weekend. Last weekend was out in Las Vegas and San Diego, and over the weekend took some time to go to some events. Went and saw Coldplay down in San Diego, Killers up at Dana Point, and actually by chance went to the Huntington Beach Air Show, and it was crazy. Like one of our slogans is "Your success is our flex," and it was a really proud weekend for me. Of those 3 events that I went to, we had 12 different vendors working and providing services at those 3 events, and even saw one of our customers semi. Well, I passed the semi; they didn't pass me. And so it was just crazy to be surrounded by and seeing our fingerprint left and being a part of these great events that were all world-class, stellar, just took your breath away, and I loved it.
Cool. I mean, it's nice to get out there and do that. I probably don't enjoy going to concerts as much as I used to, but it's nice to see your clients and customers out there doing their thing and then getting to enjoy something. I mean, the last concert I went to see was Glenn Frey and Joe Walsh in a hotel ballroom in the 90s. So
I'd pay to see him today.
Yeah, that was good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the industry. And you talk to so many people, and you're out of the field so much, talking to your clients and meeting folks. I still finding this idea of being too busy to be kind of pervasive, right? So what are your thoughts on your clients and acquaintances who always seem to be too busy? They're too busy to implement your product. They're too busy to fix their processes and things like that. But they're always desperate for one more gig, right? Yeah. So what are the things that are keeping people in this too busy mindset today, maybe compared to 5 years ago?
Solving the right problems, I think. What I mean by that is, we've got a problem, but we're just not going to deal with it. We're going to keep it as is, and we know we can continue. Mm-hmm. And not being able to really look and see what are things that will actually move the needle. I think that's the really biggest question, because everybody company has so many things they can do, and it's what should you do and what will allow you to grow and things like that. So um, I'd say this industry isn't alone. Every company has to scale. We're dealing with scale problems right now. We've got a really great core product, a really great team, but one of the problems that we're trying to solve is, how do you handle the periphery? How do you handle the adjacent problems that allow us to add even more value and stuff like that? And how do we scale? So, we kind of take the mentality of, you hire for the valleys and you scale for the peaks, is kind of what our motto.
Yeah, and that obviously dovetails in with what I've been teaching about scalability and finding that right balance to
Mhm.
make it work. Something I noted when we met during Infocom was how much you support the outside consultants who work with your product and help their customers better implement the product instead of trying to do it yourself. I mean, this sounds crazy on one hand and brilliant on the other. How'd you get there?
Um, Most of them came to us and like, "Are you cool with this?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Like, you can try to strangle things. No, everything has to be flex, or it's not us, or it's scaled down and stuff. Squarewave does some amazing stuff. They can get in and solve minute problems, and there's part of me that's really jealous of them. I wish I could look at one pretty graph for one thing, um, but we've got to support the whole infrastructure that allows that pretty graph to happen. And so, early on, it was like, I don't want to have to be responsible for that. And I can look at this in a way that, if they're seeing value in it, then we have value. Not they're a competition to us. They're they're validating what we do. How about
Mhm.
that?
Right. Well, and it also goes back to what you said about knowing what you can do and what you should do. You could be the consultant to your clients, but you really need to be the supporter of your product.
Yeah. We provide the foundation and we solve
Right.
the core problems, I think is really what we've come to. Is, by and large, I've heard from some customers like, "I can't get rid of Flex because it's the best quoting tool out there." It's like, cool, we've done our job.
Hmm.
We've made ourselves indispensable. And to that point, if we get sidetracked of the core problems, then we lose the foundation. And
Hmm.
so, I people doing ancillary work to what we do, hell yeah, give me more of that. Give
Right.
me more square waves.
Yeah. So strategic partners. I mean, this is good. We
100%.
we all need strategic partners. We don't have to do everything for
And
our
you
clients
should.
ourselves. Right.
Back in the days, my old bosses did a really damn good job of really talking to their customers and saying, "What else can we do for you?" Taking that back into the team and saying, "Well, I don't want to do that, but I know someone who can do that." And
Yeah.
now we are just the solution provider for more and more and more, and they're more dependent upon us. But we've just got people helping us out, and we know the phone calls to make and stuff like that. So I think I learned that from my old bosses. They were
Mhm.
brilliant at that, and really taking their core services and extending out their services through partners, and they did an amazing job.
Yeah. There's definitely value in being a connector, right? That's a
100%.
You don't have to sell your customers everything. Sometimes you just need to help them.
Or I'll sell it to you, but I've got a great partner who's going to help me do that. And
Right.
they're going to come in, and you're not going to know that they're not part of my team, or it doesn't even matter that they're part of the team.
Yeah.
You just get to go home early at night and get a good pat on the back.
Well said. So generations. I don't want to be generational list because, well, I'm a baby boomer, but I
Yeah, I
certainly am
guess. I got some
Yeah,
great.
but I embrace the value of all the different generations,
Oh yeah.
and each generation of owners and managers brings something meaningful into the industry. And I'm very blessed right now to work with a lot of what I consider younger people, because they're younger than 40, some are younger than 30, and I think they bring a lot of refreshing ideas and approaches to this. What are you seeing in this current crop of 20 and 30 somethings?
Um, they're different. They're not bad. They're not good. They're different, and they have incredible skills. And they've grown up with technology that we've had to learn, where it's just been ingrained with them. I was out visiting a customer in Vegas, and the owner of the company's son is kind of head of technology, and he was showing me stuff that he was doing with Flex that I didn't think was even possible, which is just awesome. He was doing a ton of stuff with APIs. He was making his own dashboards. One of the things that we heard about the kind of migration from Flex 4 to Flex 5 was the greatest thing you ever did was build that API. And so we've got customers who are building a suite of products upon our products and solving their own problems using our APIs. And he's one of them. He's just a younger guy, brilliant, and just technology doesn't scare them, it enthralls them. How
Mm-hmm.
about that?
That's that's awesome, and I think more companies need to be adept at that, because this is part of your core competency, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I have many different customers who are literally writing their own suite of products that are interacting with Flex,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, and they're just, they know how to do it. So I don't know if that's a thing that everyone's going to do, or if the mid tier, like I see a lot of mid tier companies playing with the big tier companies by having that role. Like there are literally tech people that are just taking their companies to the next level.
Right. So, speaking of these roles, like this, the customer son, who are the new MVPs? What are the most valuable players in production rental companies today? Who are the folks we can't do business without?
Um, I'm not sure it's a role as much as I want to find people who are part of the solution, and not those people who like to point out the problems. Um, because you'll have different problems every week, every month, every year. And that's what every company, live event, software, everyone will have problems. Everyone will have crap. How are we going to get out of this thing that this person sold that we can't do? Well, you solve problems. Um, so to me, it's not a role; it's a mindset. That's who we really try to hire, is people who can communicate well, don't have an ego, and just want to be a part of the solution.
Right. I had a conversation with an owner recently who's, everybody struggles with leadership and getting people to work at their highest and best use. And, he has a highly paid employee who's great at pointing out problems, but he's not great at bringing solutions. And I said, well,
And
look,
maybe even be creating some of the problems that he sees.
well, that is the thing, is that if all you do is point out problems. So I put it to him this way. I said, for $50,000 a year, you can hire people who are great at finding problems. They'll do it for you all day long. For $100,000 a year, you can find people who come to you with solutions. For $150,000 a year, you can find people who will solve the problem and you'll never hear about it. Right? So it's really about investing in the right people to get the right results.
Yeah, I've had some interesting experience in my time in the industry. I've had employees that were saboteurs to our success.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people, you've talked a lot about silos, that one employee who you can't live without. And it's like, well, why can't we live without him? Because maybe he's creating the problems that he's solving, to be
Right.
perfectly honest. And dude, making the hard decisions, and trying to find those right people who will get you to the next level, who are like, oh yeah, let me get in there and solve that. That's who I want.
Right. Right. And in my new book, Balance, plug for my new book, um, I share a made up story which is based on lots of experiences of that hero person, that person who becomes the silo and the hero, and everything revolves around them, and we can't
This job, I saved the savior complex. I
the
saved
savior.
this job.
Right.
And in reality,
They protect every job in the company from all the horrible employees that they're forced to work with. Right. And 100% of the time, when we start introducing change into an organization to make the organization more scalable, things work better, that person ends up quitting
yeah,
because they can't be the hero anymore because they're now not the silo. And what happens is we find out all the other people who were really good at stuff who had been stifled by that person who's made it all about them. And it's very important to us to understand what process is so that we have people doing the right thing rather than just focusing on finding the people. If we don't have processes, you know, we're not going to have the right people.
yeah. And to be perfectly honest, you know, solving the right problems, even though it's hard, is better than just letting it linger. 100%. Like
Right.
nothing ever solves itself by let's look at this in a month or a year. You know,
Right.
so like to me, when people say we're too busy to get to move to your product we really want to, I think that's a good short term. You know, like I understand that. I understand busy season, but sooner or later, if you want progress, you have to move forward.
Right. So, seasonal industry, right? Everybody's got the peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Big conversation, and a lot of my discussions this quarter have been about, talent, the difficulty in finding qualified freelance technicians. If certainly in 2022, it was a seller's market for show technicians, right? We had a lot of people who had left the marketplace. We had this huge surge of business. So it was kind of a seller's market. But what do you feel that qualified freelance technicians want most from the event production companies that are trying to hire them? Besides getting paid on time, which we all agree on.
Yeah. Rephrase that question. I want to make sure I'm answering the right question.
If I'm a freelance technician and I've
Okay.
got all these people that are trying to hire me, and I've got to pick and choose which jobs I take and who I work for, what am I looking for?
I have this mentality of treat other people the way you want to be treated, and like you said, you mentioned pay people on time. Most of the people that I worked at who were the A level tech leads that came in on specific jobs as it exceeded our capacity, they really want to be a part of the solution. They want your job to be just as good, if not better, than you wanted it to be. That's how they get the attaboy. And so, trust, collaboration, good communication is I think key to that, I guess. So why would they choose you over another company? Hopefully you got a good relationship with them and you take care of them and they take care of you and you both benefit.
Connecting, technical staff, or finding good technical field people. There's no listing. There's no one place that we can go to and find people. It's all word of mouth. It's all referral. There's a few databases here and there. What are the barriers to having a resource marketplace for talent? And I know this has come up in your conversations with customers because we're going to talk about, your product here in a minute. But why isn't there a Yelp?
A lot of times in a past life in the live event industry, a lot of our A-level freelancers were the best resources to find other freelance people. They're booked. They've got a guy who they worked with on the last show who was their L2 or their V1 or something like that. And half the times, oh, you're not available. Do you know anyone who is? Like, that sounds like a stupid question. Why would I give someone else a job that Does that reduce my greatness? I don't know. But yeah, sometimes we got the
Right.
greatest uh, ability to add to our deck was asking the same people who weren't available.
Right. And if you're asking a freelancer for a referral, hey, you're not available, who else should I call? Who else should I be using? And if they don't have a good answer for you, they probably aren't that good of a freelancer.
Yeah.
Right. Because the question is,
Or they're just a little bit insecure. I don't know.
well, they're insecure, but why are you insecure?
Yeah.
Because no, a good freelancer will always refer somebody who's better than they are.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. The question is, who's better than you? And if you can't tell me who's better than you, you're probably not that good.
And I may not mean that person, but who's right below you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So and you can say, hey, this person doesn't do what I do, but they're really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
So, referrals
and then I add that to my Rolodex and like, oh, when I need that, that's like, having conversations, I think, that aren't about a specific job are just as important.
Right.
Hey, can I take you out to dinner when you're in town, or after the show? Could you hang around for a half a day? We'll pay you. We'll take you out. We'll have that conversation. I think that's just as important.
Yeah. Let's find opportunities to sit down and network and visit and socialize with folks.
What can we do to help you?
Exactly.
Exactly. I am one of those people who benefited from companies investing in me and my knowledge. And I try to do the same with my employees. Hey, do you need some new training? What do we need to do to get you up the next level? Hey, what if you took some of your best freelancers and say, hey, there's a great, new training going on at Evolve. What if we flip the bill or split the bill with you or something like that? All of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, if I've got to choose between X and Y, hell yeah, I'm choosing X.
Good. Well said. Yeah. The old adage of, hey, my warehouse is open, you can come over anytime and train on the equipment isn't really adequate anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, there's so much deeper knowledge that comes from mentoring and working with somebody beside you. That on-the-job training is still extremely valuable. It's not just learning how to set up the latest hairdryer or overhead projector. It's about learning how to code. It's how to program.
Dude, all of a sudden you're investing in them. Hell yeah, they'll pay you back.
Yeah. So Flex recently, speaking of labor, announced the release of its Staffing Plus module. Quickly, what does this do, and what impact do you expect it to have for your customers?
Solving the right problem is also knowing which problem not to solve or what problem not to solve now. And so we talked to a lot of our customers, did a lot of interviews. What are you using right now outside of the product that you're not using internally? What problems are greater now than they ever were? And during the pandemic, that as things were coming back, that was the biggest problem, is that threshold of how low we had to go was the lowest we've ever been. And we're slowly getting back. So we've got to staff, we've got to get our A-level people back and stuff like that. So what we heard from a lot of our customers was our labor coordinator is just spending 80 to 90% of his time trying to look at who he's invited, who's responded, who's available, and just juggling that email, phone tag, no centralized place to do that. And so we really looked at the labor coordinator role and said, what are the top 5 things that will reduce bottlenecks? And I think when you talk about scale, when you reach your capacity, there are bottlenecks that are restricting you. And so Flex has always been a logistical problem solver. And so we just took that mentality of how do we give people actionable information? There's always the problem of data doesn't help unless it's good data and it's presented in a good way. So we've always had the ability to, I have this role that this person has, I'm going to assign them to that. But what we weren't providing for was the massive amount of footwork it took to send emails or phone calls or text messages to these 10 people on this role and these 5 people on this role, that becomes a scale bottleneck. Who's responded to me? Okay, of who's responded, we like that one most. We'll offer that to those. That's that bottleneck problem, that scalability problem that the labor coordinator people really gave us the lead on, that we focused on first.
Nice. And so it removes a lot of the time suck because you're doing that in the same environment where your event technology is being planned and sourced.
Yeah. And so I don't want to get into payroll. I probably will never get into payroll. But trying to find very specific bottlenecks. A lot of times payroll that's my bookkeeper's job. That's not, I got to get this done. I got 20, that's a lot of times that is a bookkeeper job. Great. Okay. But the scalability problem, that's the labor coordinator role. So that's really what we are focusing on right now, is really how to scale that from crap, how many people do I have to fill and stuff like that. And a lot of times what we're looking at is a lot of those A level and B level stuff. Right. Most of our customers are outsourcing, their deckhands and stuff to a group of people. That's one call. That's not a scale problem. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's helping an order move through the system, and it's doing it in one environment. And this whole role of labor coordinator barely existed 5 years ago.
And that was the project manager's job, and they just had to fight it out amongst themselves.
Right. And in the scalability model, we've got to centralize as many services as possible. And the thing that makes the absolute most sense is having one person contacting all the freelancers and keeping track of who they've contacted and who said no, so that you don't have 3 project managers calling the same person for 3 different jobs on the same dates and they're already not available.
Yeah, we're looking to add some even better functionality. Ideally, in the future, I'd love for our employees to be able to send, or the freelance people to be able to share their unavailable dates, put that back in the system, so that I don't even want, I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to disturb them because it already says they're not. I'm going to respect their time.
Yeah, that for me, that is huge.
Yeah.
As a former staffing company, former person who hired, former freelancer, knowing that people aren't available is a huge part of the formula.
Yeah.
If you want to have a good relationship with your talent pool, respect their time and their availability. And it's a two-way communication. So that's awesome. That's exciting. All right, 2024. What is Chris Stein looking forward to personally and professionally in 2024?
Personally, happiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about good life. I love what I do. I always have loved what I do. I'm very privileged to, I thought it was a privilege to work in the AV industry and get paid to play. Trying to solve those same problems. I love solving problems. So it's fun. I love getting in with customers. Every customer is so unique and has very different problems. One of the things that I like about going to customers is seeing, oh, this problem that everyone else has, that's a nuisance. Oh, that's a big problem for you because of X, Y, and Z and the way you run your company and stuff like that. And it gives context is king. And so getting out and talking to customers and getting context, and not, don't tell me what you think the solution is. Tell me what your problem is. So that's the stuff that I love.
It's fun. I miss running into you in people's offices around the country.
I remember what the hell? You're here. Crap, am I in trouble?
We used to do that quite a bit. I need to get back out there some more. So, well, Chris, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and expertise, and congratulations on the developments in your product. And I look forward to seeing you or some of your team here in the very near future.
I will be there.
You will be there. All right. So thanks.
I won't miss a Tom Stimson experience.
There you go. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and tell us what you think. If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.